I'm the owner and roaster at Reading Roasters Coffee Company. I grew around the coffee business when I was younger. My dad opened up this business in 2004. I was a teenager, so I got to hang around it a lot. And about 5 years ago, he passed away and I took over. So I just kind of slid in one day and decided to pick it up exactly where he left off. Retail-wise, we're open on a daily basis during business hours, whether we're roasting or not roasting, and people get to come in and buy coffee directly from us, but we also do wholesale. Well, we're selling out to other cafes and vast array of businesses. We sell coffee to bookstores, we sell coffee to bakeries and cafes. We're in some local farm markets, we're in a food truck. I mean, if you're brewing coffee, we would be more than happy to work with you. The customers that come in here, they become very familiar to us. You know, people come in on a weekly basis most of the time to get their freshly roasted coffees.
Every week on Saturdays. That's the way that the cycle ends up working. She goes through a week and then we always come back.
You know, they come in and we get to know them as people and we get to learn about their family, and babies are born and we get to watch them grow up over the years. So there are some familiar faces that I still see today that I remember meeting when I was a teenager, when my dad was still alive running this business.
I started coming here right after Bill first opened it, to get gifts for people, because at that point I was drinking tea. So he talked to me about coffee, and then it was because of his knowledge and interest that got me to be interested in drinking coffee.
I remember people from 10 years ago, from 12 years ago, and I even remember what kind of coffee they got 12 years ago. So it's interesting to see that evolve and to see the same people every single day. They become like friends to you. You know, you can count on them being there just like they count on us being here. So it ends up being a really social environment, and it feels like a small kind of community. When the customers come in, they'll start talking to whoever came in right before them, that they start to talk about things like what new grinder they got and what kind of espresso machine they're thinking about purchasing, and they'll talk to each other about coffee-related things, and sometimes it expands outside of that if there's something going on in town. And so it really feels very much like a community just in our small store.
The quality of the product, the staff is always, friendly and helpful in explaining.
When you're roasting coffee, you really want to know your bean. The first thing that you want to do is understand what coffee you're roasting. The flavor profiles that you do expect to get out of that coffee will initially impact your opinion of how you think this coffee should be roasted, but you need to understand things like humidity levels in the coffee. They have different moisture contents, so you have to roast at different levels of temperature and gas and airflow. And when you start the roasting process, you want to do a lot of charting. You could graph it or you could just handwrite it and understand how the temperature is changing in the bean throughout the roasting process. So when you bring the coffee up to a specific temperature and you decide to stop the roast, you dump the coffee out, and after it cools and rests, you do want to taste it and see if that's how you want it to turn out at the end. But you can adjust your roast profiles and change what you're doing. So you have to really have a good understanding of exactly what you're roasting and how you want it to come out. And then just try everything and see what's working and what's not working. And then rinse and repeat. Consistency is very challenging. It's an interesting process because we kind of have like 4 different types of customers. There are people that come in and they want something different every single time that they come in. So I have what I call just a rotating slot that's available for whatever really interesting coffee comes in. So I'll get just a bag of something and I'll roast that every single week until it's gone, and then we'll go ahead and we'll refill that with another new interesting coffee. And that rotating spot, we don't usually repeat that coffee. We'll get something that's really interesting. It's a micro lot. It has a really phenomenal, unique taste that might not be specifically for the average customer, but I do know that I have a group of people that are interested in that.
Oh, I like trying different ones. Yeah, my wife seems to like the Indonesian coffees a lot. I like African, Central American, so we can, but we like them all.
And that allows us to be creative too, to have something that's fun and exciting and unusual and bizarre even sometimes. And then we'll go ahead and we'll move on to another one. And sometimes it ends up being so good that I see if I can keep that on a regular basis. We'll get a bunch of coffee on contract and we'll bring that in from time to time. And then there are people that 12 years ago tried one specific single origin and they're just hooked on it, and that's the only thing that they get.
I like experimenting. She's very set on her Guatemalan roast, but I like it because it's not too dark, but it's enough to give you enough like depth and flavor, and it gets me up in the morning at least.
And then there are people that will get a little bit of coffee that is their regular go-to all the time, and then they'll also try something else on the side to try something new, but they like to have their reserve coffee.
I'm definitely a sucker for mom and pop, and I always love when young people are entrepreneurs.
When anybody comes into our store, if they're just getting into coffee for the first time, we'll always talk with them about what equipment they're interested in, what type of coffee they're interested in brewing, and give them tips and techniques in order to do so. So I would always like to have something in the future as far as education goes. So if they were to come in and watch how we're brewing our coffee, if they have questions regarding that, we would like to have people still here working that have that kind of education involved as well, so that we can share that with anybody that comes into our store. But right now we're happy. Any more growth and I would have to step back and not be involved as much. And I really enjoy being here on a daily basis and being the one that's roasting the coffee. And I do have help from somebody that's working here that I am training to roast coffee. Just because our volumes are going up, it's something that is a natural expansion. When my dad was alive, he was the only person that knew how to roast coffee, and that ended up being a dangerous thing. So we like to share that knowledge and all learn together as a business. So one day we will have some kind of little storefront where we can engage with the community and be brewing coffee for them. But at this point, we're very happy and comfortable in our little nest where we're doing what we're doing now.